and you don't want to get epoxy places you don't need to. Again, cleanup is crucial. When it's all said and done, it's much easier to clean up a rod. You know, little things here and there that you missed, as opposed to everything. And the more you leave on a rod, the harder it is to get it all off. That's all nice and clean now. Take our reel seat, slide it down. That's where it's going to sit. Okay. And again, all we need to do is just take our China marker, mark the top of our reel seat against the blank. Now we know exactly where we need to stop our epoxy and our reel seat bushings. So I'm going to do is just slide the reel seat up a little bit. And on this one I'm going to do 4 rings because we got a pretty big reel seat here. About 1 inch between each ring. And I'll just spin the blank, get a nice line of masking tape, keeping the tape pretty firm. Just like so. I'll spin it. I'll show you a quicker way to do it in a minute, but the real basic way is by hand. Just put it. Luckily, masking tape is cheap, but it definitely does its job in rod building. You know, it comes in 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, or 1/4 inch. And you know, for big game rods like this, 3/4 inch would be much nicer than 1/2 inch. But all I've got right here is the 1/2. 1/2 inch rods or 1/2 inch tape is great all around for most rods. A little too much. Still a little too much. I want to keep this tape on the side, we'll need it later. Still a little too much. I missed it. Oh, I didn't see. So this reel seat has ridges on the inside of it to keep the epoxy from sliding. This way, when the epoxy bonds and cures inside of it, it has tracks that prevent that reel seat from spinning. Whereas if it was completely smooth on the inside, the reel seat could eventually break the surface tension and adhesion, or adherence rather, of the epoxy underneath. But with the grooves, it'll lock it in place. It's a nice tight fit. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw this rod in the rod lathe. If you have one, this is definitely the way to go, what I'm about to show you. Alright, what we've got here is a power wrapper. This particular power wrapper is about 8 years old, and it still works the same as the day I got it. I've upgraded the chuck. Some of the standard power wrappers come with a plastic chuck, and the jaws seem to flex, and quite often the rods will pop out, and you'll wake up in the middle of the night having to fix a rod, or even worse, wake up in the morning after you've had a rod curing all night, and you'll find out that it cured after it spit out, and you've got epoxy all over the place. I highly, highly recommend the power wrapper and getting an upgraded chuck. All we're going to do is lay the rod in the rod stands, tighten the chuck. It does a great job. It's perfectly centered every time. Another issue with some of the standard chucks is they don't come together perfectly on center. This chuck, I've never had an issue with it. All we got to do is put our blank, or rather in this case, it's almost a rod. We'll just tighten these down. These rod stands have the wheels that really allow the blank to roll smoothly. And then we have two motors. We'll touch on this later, but it's got a wrapping motor, just like a sewing machine, or if I press my pedal, it's going to spin the rod, or has a drawing motor. All I do is switch this belt, flip a switch, and now we have a constant low RPM. What we're going to do here is go ahead and build up our masking tape arbors with our power wrapper this time. We know again that we're going to stop right here at this mark with our China marker. So I've put about 1/2 inch between the grip and our first ring of masking tape. And I'm just going to go ahead and take these other pieces of tape, which we pulled off earlier because we had built this up a little too much, and start the rings just like that. So I know we have them evenly spaced. I'm not going to build them up yet. There we go. Now I know, looks good, exactly where I want to build up my rings. So now I know this first one right here is perfect, nice and snug. So I don't have to worry about that one right now. I'm going to build this second one next. Just use the power wrapper to build it up. Check it. A little too much. I mean, having this power wrapper is just awesome. I got both hands free. I can spin it. It spins like a dream. And if I choose to use a foot pedal, it spins the rod for me. A little more tape on that one. There we go. Second ring is perfect, just like that. It's much quicker. I don't have to worry about my hands getting tired. Or again, even if you don't want to use the foot pedal or whatever, you can spin it by hand. But if you've got it here, there's no reason not to use it. Just like that. We've got our rail seat bushings. Now we're going to take that off. And go ahead and put our epoxy on, and then our foregrip. But we don't need to have that on the lathe to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the lathe. That way, I'm going to take it out of the lathe here in a few minutes to put the foregrip on. I don't have to worry about getting epoxy on my rod stand or anything like that. All right, now we've got our rail seat bushings built up. We're going to take our epoxy, go ahead and fill in the gaps, rub the epoxy again up inside different layers of tape. You want that tape to get locked onto itself so it can't spin or come undone. But again, the most important part of epoxying the rail seat is filling in those gaps between the rolls of tape so that you have a direct bond between the blank and the inside of the rail seat. The easiest way to do that for me personally is just go laterally across the tops of the tape, knowing that there's epoxy on top of the tape. So as opposed to going in like I am now just to get epoxy in there, I want to go sideways so that the epoxy comes out level over the tape and fills in those gaps between the rings. And make sure we get the front of the tape.